A pale grey mist hangs above the rice fields of Vietnam. The year is 1945, and the land wakes beneath the weight of war, empire, hunger and rumour. Before sunrise, woven bamboo doors creak open in villages scattered across the Red River Delta, the Central Plains and the southern waterways. Clay stoves are stirred back to life with careful hands. Thin smoke drifts upward through the cool air. Roosters cry from muddy courtyards. Water buffalo shift heavily in their pens. Somewhere in the darkness, a child wakes and asks for food before any has been prepared. Somewhere else, a mother already knows there is not enough. In this year, survival depends on more than hard work. It depends on the weather, on soldiers, on taxes, on grain stores, on broken roads, and on whether tomorrow brings a harvest, a funeral, or another day of waiting. Morning comes quietly, but nobody mistakes it for peace. In one village, an old man coughs beside the family altar, while his daughter ties a scarf around her hair and steps into the yard. In another, a boy rinses a basket in a rain jar before following his father toward the fields. Bare feet move across packed earth still wet with dawn. Conical hats are lifted from wall pegs. Shoulder poles are tested for balance. Worn farming tools are checked in silence, their wooden handles polished smooth by years of use. Grandmothers blow gently on small fires. Babies cling to thin mothers wrapped in faded cloth. Even before the sun rises, the day has already begun to take from them. In Vietnam in 1945, ordinary life is not separate from hardship. Hardship sits beside every hearth and waits at every doorway. Out in the paddies, farmers step ankle deep and then knee deep into mud chilled by the morning. The fields stretch flat beneath a whitening sky, cut by dikes, canals, and narrow footpaths worn by generations. Men guide ploughs behind restless buffalo. Women bend low, planting seedlings in careful rows with swift, practiced movements. Their backs remain curved for hours. Leeches cling to legs. Mud sucks at every step. The work is patient, repetitive, and exhausting, yet no one can afford haste. A broken dike may drown a crop. A delayed planting may ruin a season. The land gives life, but only after endless labour. Across the countryside, people watch the sky as closely as they watch the soil. A little too much rain brings ruin. Too little brings the same. By 1945, even a good field no longer guarantees a full bowl. For many peasants, the harvest does not fully belong to those who grow it. Rent, debt, and wartime demands take their share first. Rice leaves the village before hunger does. In some places, grain is requisitioned. In others, it is hoarded, hidden, or trapped by broken transport. Wartime disruption twists the rhythm of agriculture until even fertile land begins to feel uncertain. Some families stretch their meals with cassava, sweet potato, bran, or whatever roots they can gather. Others eat less and say nothing, pretending the smaller bowl is enough. In the north, the situation grows sharper with every passing month. Floods, poor harvests, transport failures, and wartime policy press together like a tightening fist. Hunger no longer feels like a distant threat. It becomes something visible, something counted by ribs, by weakness. By the silence at mealtime, far from the paddies, another Vietnam begins its day beneath black dust and stone. In the coal regions of the northeast, miners descend into dark shafts where heat, dampness, and fatigue gather underground. Timber supports groan above them. Air grows thick. Lamps flicker against rough walls. Coal dust settles in nostrils, on clothes, in lungs. Every tool strike echoes with danger. A loose beam, a slipping foot, a sudden collapse can end a life in seconds. Yet men return day after day because families still need food, because wages, however small, still matter, because the world above ground offers no gentler certainty. Some miners emerge coughing, their faces darkened until only the whites of their eyes remain bright. By evening they will carry that dust home with them, into kitchens, onto mats, and into the breathing space of the people who wait. Along rivers, labour moves with the current. Sampans and cargo boats slide through brown water under low skies, carrying rice, salt, fish, timber, charcoal, and whatever goods can still be moved through a country strained by war. Boatmen brace their bare feet against wet planks and guide long poles through shifting depth. Hidden sandbanks wait beneath the surface. Sudden wind catches sails without warning. Heavy loads pull vessels off balance. On wide waterways in the south and narrow channels in the north, a single mistake can tip cargo and men into cold, fast-moving water. But villages, towns and markets depend on these journeys. The river is road, lifeline and hazard all at once. Even when the banks are quiet, danger travels beside every boat just as necessity does. In the cities, labour wears a different face but carries the same exhaustion. Hanoi wakes to the sound of wooden cartwheels, bicycle bells, distant engines and hurried feet. In Haiphong, porters stoop beneath sacks so heavy they seem to bend the spine itself. In Saigon and Cholon, workers push through crowded streets with goods balanced on shoulder poles or stacked high on hand carts. Rickshaw pullers lean forward like men harnessed to their own survival, dragging passengers over uneven roads in heat, rain and dust. Their calves tense with every pull, their ribs show through thin shirts. Some repair bicycles by the roadside. Others hammer metal in cramped workshops or unload cargo beside warehouses that smell of oil, rope and old wood. In every direction effort is visible. Yet even constant labour does not guarantee dignity, safety, or enough food to carry a family through the week. The markets reveal both the strength and fragility of everyday life. Before full daylight, women arrive balancing baskets of greens, dried fish, jars of sauce, bundles of firewood, and small portions of grain measured with careful eyes. Their shoulders bear the weight of trade long before most of the town has risen. Infants sleep against their backs while hands sort produce, fold leaves, count coins, and negotiate prices that change with fear as much as with supply. In 1945, every market carries tension beneath its noise. Rice is spoken of in lowered voices. Shortage changes the way people look at one another. Bargaining becomes sharper because loss feels closer. Some stalls are full of ordinary things, others are nearly bare. A woman may sell the last chicken she owns, then walk home with only enough money to buy half the rice she expected. Along the coast, fishermen greet the morning from narrow wooden boats already slick with spray. They push out before dawn into waters that can turn from manageable to murderous within an hour. Nets drag heavy with promise or come up nearly empty. Salt stings cracked skin. Cold wind numbs fingers gripping wet rope. A hidden storm on the horizon can swallow a small vessel without ceremony. Still they go, because fish are food, trade and survival. Near the shore, salt workers cross bright fields that reflect the sun like sheets of broken glass. They rake and lift under a heat so harsh it burns through cloth and skin. Their eyes narrow against the glare. Their shoulders harden under repetition. The sea feeds Vietnam and punishes it in equal measure. And in 1945 there is a little room to refuse either side of that truth. Beyond the fields and coastlines, forests and hills demand a quieter kind of endurance. Woodcutters disappear beneath tall trees carrying axes, rope, and the confidence that only experience can provide. Trails are slick. Roots twist under leaves. Falling branches strike without warning. A misjudged cut can send a trunk crashing in the wrong direction, with no time to escape. Charcoal burners tend smoky pits where the air remains bitter, and the work stains everything it touches. In upland paths and forest edges, men and women haul bundles of wood that bow their backs and slow their steps. The journey home is often as dangerous as the cutting itself, yet timber and fuel remain essential. Homes, cooking fires, workshops, and carts all depend on what is brought out of the trees. Even the quietest landscape asks for risk in return. Inside workshops, the day grows louder. Blacksmiths strike glowing iron until sparks leap across packed floors. Carpenters shape planks for doors, carts, altars, and roofs. Weavers work looms with steady rhythm while seamstresses bend over cloth in poor light, their fingers moving through fatigue as if they no longer belong to the body that guides them. Potters turn wet earth into vessels meant to survive fire. Repairmen patch tools too worn to replace. Children sweep shavings, carry water, pump bellows, and learn the posture of labour before they learn rest. In 1945, almost nothing is wasted because almost nothing is easily replaced. A blade is sharpened again and again. A sandal is mended until it barely holds together. Every object lives longer because people have no choice but to make it last. Scarcity enters the workshop just as surely as smoke and heat. Above all this labour hangs the pressure of power. At the beginning of 1945, French colonial authority still lingers in offices, prisons and records, but Japanese troops now dominate roads, barracks, warehouses and rail lines. One system has ruled for decades. Another has arrived with military force. Between them stand the people, carrying the burden of both. Uniformed men appear at checkpoints, near depots, outside administrative buildings, along important routes. Orders travel downward. Obedience is expected. Fear becomes practical, almost routine. People learn when to lower their eyes, when to speak softly, when not to ask questions. In towns, flags may change faster than daily hardship does. In villages, political power feels distant until it arrives in the form of requisition, patrols, arrests, or new demands on grain and labour. In 1945, Vietnam lives beneath watchful eyes and uncertain authority. Then hunger begins to spread with terrifying speed. In the north especially, famine moves from possibility to reality. Granaries empty, prices rise beyond reach. Families who once endured lean seasons now face something worse, something unfamiliar in scale and cruelty. People grind whatever they can find. Rice is mixed with roots, leaves, husks, and desperation. Meals shrink until they become gestures. Bodies shrink with them. Those who still have food hide it carefully. Those who do not begin to sell possessions piece by piece, a copper pot, a wooden chest, a blanket, a bracelet kept since marriage. The exchange is rarely fair, but fairness has little value against starvation. Strength leaves the legs first, then the face changes, then the voice. Villages that once measured time by planting and harvest begin to measure it by who has eaten and who has not. Soon the roads themselves become witnesses. Along dikes, village lanes, and the approaches to market towns, thin figures move slowly beneath the sun, carrying children too weak to walk or bundles too small to justify the journey. Some search for relatives, some search for grain, some search for any place where the next mouthful might exist. Many no longer know exactly where they are going. Their clothes hang loose, their cheeks hollow, their eyes lose the alertness of the living and take on the fixed distance of those already halfway gone. In places, bodies appear beside roads, beneath market walls, ears are near pagodas, at ferry crossings. Morning reveals what the night has taken. There are too many stories for any one family to hold, too many silences, too many graves hurriedly made because the living are too weak to mourn as long as they should. The cities cannot hide this suffering. In Hanoi, in provincial towns, and along transport routes, hunger arrives at the edge of public life and then moves directly into its centre. Children sit beside walls too tired to ask for anything. Men who once laboured in workshops or at docks now crouch motionless in doorways, conserving the little strength that remains. Women carrying the last of their belongings search the streets for work, for relatives, for food, for mercy. Shopkeepers look away and then look back. Officials count what can be counted and miss what matters most. Some mornings, carts move through the streets to collect the dead. Life continues around them because it must. Market voices rise, wheels turn, orders are shouted, but no one mistakes normal movement for normal life. Hunger changes the shape of a city as surely as war does. Inside homes, families fight starvation in private, improvised ways. Mothers boil thin soups from wild greens. Grandparents surrender their portion and say they are not hungry. Children are told to sleep early so they will not feel the empty ache in their stomachs for as many hours. Some people gather water plants, banana stems, scraps of broken grain, or anything that can be chewed, softened, and called a meal. Neighbours whisper about who still has rice hidden under the floor and who has already sold the last mat in the house. Dignity becomes difficult to define. Is it better to beg, to borrow, to remain silent, to leave? Every family chooses differently, and many choices are forced by the next day's weakness. In 1945, survival is no longer a matter of industry alone. It becomes a matter of improvisation, sacrifice, and luck. And yet, even in famine, the social fabric does not disappear completely. In some villages, elders open whatever communal reserves remain. At pagodas and temples, prayers mingle with the sound of thin porridge being shared. Monks, nuns, and ordinary villagers do what they can, though what they can do is often painfully small. Neighbours bury neighbours when relatives are gone. A woman watches another woman's child while someone searches for food. A farmer shares seed he cannot spare. Not every act is generous. Hunger also sharpens suspicion and fear. But the year is not made only of cruelty. It is also made of small, stubborn gestures that refuse complete collapse. A hand lifting another person up from the roadside, A ladle passed across a threshold. A stranger allowed to rest for one night beneath a roof already too crowded. At the same time, something else moves through the country besides hunger. It travels at night, in whispers, in folded papers, in conversations held after doors are shut and lamps are shaded. School teachers, workers, peasants, couriers, and students speak carefully of change. Some have heard speeches, some have read leaflets, some have met organisers in secret. Words like independence, liberation, and revolution begin to pass from mouth to mouth, not always fully understood, but deeply felt. In villages, people listen for news from towns. In towns, they listen for news from the wider war. Radio broadcasts, rumours, and travellers carry fragments of a world turning beyond Vietnam's borders. The old order seems weakened, but it has not yet vanished. The future feels possible, but also dangerous. To hope openly in 1945 is itself a risk. Then, in March, the balance of power shatters. Japanese forces move against the French administration and sweep away what had long seemed permanent. Overnight, barracks erupt, offices are seized, and authority changes hands with brutal speed. For many ordinary Vietnamese, the political structure above them suddenly looks unstable, exposed, almost brittle. But collapsing rule does not automatically mean relief. Hunger remains, fear remains, armed men remain. The poor still wake before dawn to face the same empty bowls and demanding fields. Yet something important has changed. The illusion of an unshakable colonial order is broken. The world that seemed fixed now looks temporary. In tea stalls, workshops, village meetings, and crowded alleys, people speak a little more boldly than before. Not because life has become easier, but because history suddenly feels closer, as if it has stepped down from distant offices into the street. Through the summer, uncertainty deepens. Rail lines are disrupted. Roads are unreliable. Prices continue to rise. News of war abroad grows stranger and more urgent. Allied bombers have already marked the sky in some regions. Japanese control remains armed and real, yet everyone senses strain in the system. The old rulers are weakened, the new ones are cornered. The people below still carry sacks, rowboats, weed fields, and count coins that buy less each week. But beneath the surface of everyday exhaustion, energy gathers. Young men cycle between villages with messages tucked into sleeves. Young women carry documents hidden in baskets or beneath folded cloth. Meetings take place under banyan trees, inside workshops after dark, beside shrines, behind market stalls. In 1945, politics is no longer confined to officials and soldiers. It begins to enter the hands of ordinary people. Across towns and rural districts, red flags with gold stars begin to appear more often. They are carried cautiously at first, then more boldly as events accelerate. Local committees form. Speeches are given in schoolyards and public squares. Those who have long endured taxes, forced demands, and humiliation begin to imagine a different arrangement of life. Even if the details remain uncertain, peasants who never expected to stand at the centre of history now find themselves listening to calls for national independence and popular action. Workers leave workshops to join gatherings. Students copy slogans by hand. Messengers run along dikes and alleys carrying news faster than official announcements can contain it. Not everyone knows what will happen next. Some fear chaos, some fear repression. But by late summer, it is clear that 1945 is no longer only a year of suffering. It is becoming a year of decision. In August, the great shift arrives. Japan surrenders, and the shock travels across Asia with astonishing speed. Suddenly the impossible seems near. Crowds gather in Hanoi, Hue, Saigon, and countless smaller towns, where people have never before seen public space filled with such purpose. Voices rise together. Banners are lifted. Administrative offices are surrounded, entered, and taken in the name of a different future. Some men wear uniforms, many do not. Some know exactly what they're doing. Others simply know that the old structure has cracked and this is the moment to step through. Women stand in the crowds carrying children. Farmers come in from nearby villages. Workers leave depots and workshops. Students shout until their throats go hoarse. Fear does not disappear, but it is forced to make room for something powerful and unfamiliar: collective hope. In the countryside, the change arrives by drum, by rumour, by bicycle, by breathless messenger. Village gatherings take place beneath communal house roofs, and under broad trees where elders have long settled ordinary disputes. But these are not ordinary matters. Old seals are surrendered. New committees are announced. Portraits are removed from walls. Flags are raised where none had hung before. For some villagers, the meaning is immediately clear. For others, the political language remains distant. But the emotional truth is not. The world is changing, and they are no longer expected merely to endure it in silence. Boys who once chased buffalo through muddy lanes now watch adults speak with urgency. Girls who helped sell vegetables in the market now carry news from house to house. Even villages exhausted by famine feel the tremor of history passing through them. Then comes September 2nd, 1945. In Hanoi, a vast crowd gathers as independence is proclaimed. The words spoken there do not reach every ear directly, but their force spreads quickly across the country. In tea houses, at ferry landings, in pagoda courtyards, beside market stalls, people repeat what they have heard. Vietnam has declared itself independent. For many, the sentence sounds almost unreal. Too much suffering has already filled the year for hope to feel simple. Too many bodies have been buried. Too many bowls have been empty. And yet the words travel anyway, carried by memory, rumour, recitation, and conviction. A nation is being named aloud by its own people in a way that cannot easily be forgotten. For those who survived 1945, the moment enters memory not only as politics, but as a sudden widening of what life might still become. But independence does not fill a granary overnight. It does not erase famine in a single speech, nor remove danger from roads, rivers, mines, and fields. The months ahead will remain unstable. Armed groups still exist. Foreign power has not vanished from the horizon. Disease, hunger, and uncertainty continue to test every household. Farmers still rise before dawn. Fishermen still push into dangerous water. Boatmen still brace against river current. Market women still count coins too carefully. Children still watch adults for signs of whether tomorrow will be safe. Freedom, when it first appears, is not rest. It is responsibility carried by people who are already exhausted. In 1945, Vietnam does not step into a peaceful world. It steps into a fragile one, and ordinary people must hold it together with the same hands that have already held tools, nets, oars, and empty bowls. So this is Vietnam in 1945, not only a land of declarations and upheaval, but a land of smoke-dark kitchens, cracked hands, worn sandals, bamboo baskets, flooded paddies, crowded streets, and faces sharpened by hunger and endurance. It is a country where history is not made only by leaders standing before microphones, but by mothers stretching one bowl into three, by labourers who return to work after burying the dead, by boatmen who still cross swollen rivers, by children who learn too early how to read danger in adult silence. It is a year when the ordinary becomes heroic simply because survival itself demands courage. The archives may remember the dates, the flags, the speeches, and the turning points. But beneath all of them stand the Vietnamese people of 1945, carrying a wounded nation through one of the hardest years in its history. When night falls, oil lamps glow weakly behind bamboo walls. Villages quiet again. In towns, footsteps fade from alleys and market voices disappear one by one. A pot is covered for mourning. A shirt is mended in low light. Someone whispers a prayer for the missing. Someone else whispers a promise that next year will be different. Outside, insects sing in the dark fields. River water moves under moonlight. Smoke drifts from the last cooking fires. The country does not sleep easily, but it sleeps with history still turning beneath it. Tomorrow will bring labour again. It may bring hunger again. It may bring conflict, rebuilding, or more loss. Yet after everything 1945 has already demanded, the people of Vietnam endure, and in that endurance lies the true measure of the year, not simply what happened to them, but how they carried one another through it.